You won't lose because you are weak. You will lose because you are still loyal to a version of yourself that was never built to win. He was built to survive, to be liked, to play it safe, to obey the rules that powerful people never follow. You want power? Then understand this. Your first enemy is not outside you. It's the part of you still begging for comfort, still clinging to moral clarity, still hoping to succeed without sacrificing who you are. But who you are right now was shaped by fear, by doubt, by the need to be accepted. And that version of you is not strong enough to carry the crown you secretly want. Machiavelli understood something brutal. Power does not ask if you are ready. It demands that you become ready by destroying everything that's holding you back. And that begins with betrayal, not of others, but of yourself. This is not self-help. This is self-destruction with purpose. Because to gain power, to be feared, to rise above the noise, you must kill who you really are. Not because you are evil, but because you are finally strong enough to evolve. And until that version of you dies, you will never rule anything, not even your own life. They told you to be yourself. They told you that authenticity is everything, that if you stay true to who you are, the right people will find you, the right doors will open, and the world will eventually reward you for your integrity. But what if that's the lie keeping you small? What if being yourself is just a prettier way of saying, stay exactly where you are? Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Who you are right now is not sacred. It's not some divine essence carved in stone. It's a collection of habits, fears, past experiences, wounds, approval-seeking, and survival tactics, shaped by people who did not even know who they were. The version of you that you are being loyal to was built for acceptance, not power. It was built to be liked, not feared. It was built to belong, even if that meant staying small. And so you became obedient to an identity that was never yours to begin with. You told yourself, I just need to be real. I just need to stay true to myself. But deep down, you have started to feel it, that who you are is no longer working, that it's not getting you the life, the respect, the control you thought it would. And that's where the war begins, because part of you wants to evolve, to become something sharper, more commanding, more dangerous. But another part of you whispers, don't change, don't betray yourself, as if your current self is a friend worth saving. But what if that self is the jailer? What if your loyalty to yourself is the very chain keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be? This is the first and most uncomfortable truth of power. To rise, you must betray the person you have been, not out of self-hate, but out of clarity. You are not a fixed identity. You are a strategy, a weapon in progress. And like any great weapon, you must be reforged, in fire, not comfort. You must burn the old scripts that told you to stay soft, stay humble, stay nice. Because being loyal to your past self does not make you strong, it makes you predictable. And in a world ruled by power, predictability is weakness. The most dangerous lie in the world is this, that you owe something to the person you used to be. You don't. Not your time, not your loyalty, not your future. That version of you can't take you where you need to go. So stop trying to save him. Start preparing to kill him. The version of you are loyal to. He did not come from truth. He came from repetition. You were not born as you. You were programmed. Programmed by parents who rewarded silence over strength. By teachers who praised obedience, not originality. By a culture that told you fitting in was survival, and standing out was arrogance. Every time you were punished for speaking your mind, a piece of you disappeared. Every time you were told to be nice, sit still, don't cause problems, you buried something powerful inside you. Until, eventually, the real you became the shadow, and the mask became the identity. You started to confuse your mask with your character, your politeness with morality, your shame with humility. And before you even knew what you were capable of, the world had already decided for you. So, you became the good one, the peacemaker, the humble one, the selfless one, the invisible one. You were raised to be agreeable, not dangerous. Tame, not terrifying. Predictable, not powerful. And that's the great lie. That your current self is you, that it's natural, noble, true. It's not. It's a survival strategy dressed as a personality. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He did not believe people were born evil. He believed they were born moldable, that the ones who gain power are not those who stay true to who they are, but those who reshape who they are to meet the moment. That's where shadow work begins, not with healing, not with forgiveness, but with admitting the lie. That much of what you call authenticity is just trauma you have decorated, masks you have worn for so long they started to feel like skin. But they're not your skin, they're armor. And armor is for war, not for identity. If you want to rise, if you want real control, you don't start by chasing your dreams. You start by interrogating your reflection. Who built you? What shaped you? And more importantly, what are you still carrying that was never truly yours? Because until you answer that, until you expose the lie you have called a self, you will keep fighting battles using weapons designed by people who never wanted you to win. This is not personal growth. It's psychological warfare. And the first strike is this. The old you was not born. He was programmed. And the one who programmed him did not care about your power. They cared about your compliance. If you have ever wondered why the good often fall and the ruthless rise, Machiavelli answered that question 500 years ago, and most people still are not ready to hear it. His truth was not elegant, it was not poetic, it was brutal, and it was accurate. Machiavelli did not believe in virtue for virtue's sake. He believed in effectiveness, not what feels right, what works. He was not interested in how good your heart was. He was interested in results, outcomes, leverage, impact. And that's the first rule of power he forced the world to confront. The world does not reward your intentions. It rewards your outcomes. You can mean well and still lose. You can be morally right and still irrelevant. You can be true to yourself and still invisible. Because power does not care who you are. It only cares about what you can control. You think you are playing a game of fairness, but Machiavelli knew this is a game of force, strategy, and perception. So while you are busy trying to be understood, the powerful are calculating how to be obeyed. While you are trying to be liked, they are positioning themselves to be feared. While you're protecting your integrity, they're reshaping their image to bend the world in their direction. He wrote, "A prince must seem virtuous, even if he is not, because perception is the currency of influence. Appear strong, and people follow. Appear weak, and they circle like vultures. This is the forbidden truth. Moral idealism is only useful when it serves your strategy. Otherwise, it's camouflage for your own helplessness. You were taught that being good makes you powerful. But Machiavelli knew. Power often requires the appearance of goodness, not the burden of living it. He was not saying to become evil. He was saying to become effective, to be feared when necessary, to be loved when useful, to be silent when it protects you, to be decisive when hesitation could kill you, and most importantly, to shape your identity not around values, but around results. That does not mean abandoning every principle. It means choosing the ones that get you somewhere. Because in the end, power is not an accident. It is a consequence of those who stopped worshiping who they were and started building who they needed to become. You know what needs to change, but you won't change it. Not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, but because part of you still loves the version of yourself that's holding you back. The version that wants to be accepted, that wants to be seen as good, that wants to believe you can win without losing anything. But that's the illusion. That's the lie. Because transformation doesn't feel like victory at first. It feels like betrayal. Why? Because the ego doesn't want to die. It wants to expand. It wants to stay relevant, even if it means keeping you small. Carl Jung called this your persona, the false self you show to the world, the polite, polished, predictable identity you've built to gain approval. But buried beneath that mask is your shadow, the ambition you were told to suppress, the rage you were told to tame, the hunger you were told to hide. And when you start to grow, when you start to evolve into something more dangerous, more decisive, more dominant, that shadow rises, not as a threat, but as your true power. Still, the moment you step into it, the resistance hits, the guilt, the fear, the voice inside that says, "This isn't who I am." People won't understand. What if I become someone I don't recognize? But here's the truth. You were never meant to recognize yourself forever. You are not a museum piece. You are not here to be preserved. You are here to evolve, to sharpen, to rise. And rising means killing the version of you that was built for survival, not conquest. Yes, it will feel like you're betraying your past. Yes, it will hurt. But that pain, that's the sound of your limitations cracking. That's the funeral of your comfort and the birth of your capacity. You must learn to grieve that old identity, not because it was bad, but because it's too small for what you're becoming. Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." The mask doesn't fall off gently, it shatters. And if you want to rise with force, if you want to rule your world, then the old you must die. Not quietly, not politely, but completely. This is not betrayal out of cruelty. This is betrayal out of clarity. The clarity to see that the person you've been can't take you where you're going. So bury him, mourn him, and then step into the power he was never strong enough to touch. There will be no applause, no ceremony, no moment of recognition when you finally become who you were meant to be. Only silence, smoke, and the slow, agonizing disintegration of everything you thought you were. Because killing yourself, spiritually, is not poetry. It's a funeral, and you are the body, and you are the fire. It begins when you realize that the identity you've been clinging to isn't just outdated, it's in the way. Every belief, every routine, every story you've told about who you are must be dragged into the light and burned. And yes, it will feel like death, because in many ways, it is. You're not just shedding an old version of yourself, you're laying it to rest with no intention of resurrection. And that's where most people stop. They feel the heat, they smell the smoke, and they run back into their comfort, back to the predictable, back to the self that fits the world's expectations. But you're here for something more. You came to bury the illusion and walk out of the fire reborn, like the phoenix. Not because it's a beautiful myth, but because it's the only way forward, destruction first, then flight. Rebirth doesn't come with gentle winds. It comes with clarity. And clarity doesn't comfort you. It confronts you. It shows you the lies you've lived inside. It makes you stand at the grave of your former self and decide, am I here to evolve? Or am I still trying to keep a corpse alive? Because, let's be honest, half of your suffering isn't from life. It's from holding on to a version of yourself that no longer exists. And when you finally let go, when you allow that old identity to collapse, something strange happens. You stop needing permission. You stop asking who you're allowed to be. And you start becoming exactly what the moment demands. That's the gift of rebirth. Not happiness, not ease, but power. The power to choose yourself without apology, without hesitation, without dragging the past behind you like a chain. To kill yourself, spiritually, is to say, I am done being who I was told to be. I am becoming what I decide. No more confusion, no more pretending, no more playing small in the name of being good. The flames weren't sent to destroy you. They were sent to free you. So, burn. And when the ashes settle, don't go looking for who you were. Start building who you were never allowed to be. We talk about power like it's something you're born with. But that's a myth, and a dangerous one. Because the men who shaped history were not born extraordinary. They became extraordinary by killing the version of themselves that wasn't. Take Steve Jobs. The world remembers the black turtleneck, the stage presence, the visionary. But before that, he was erratic, emotional, unfocused. He was fired from his own company. And in that exile, he didn't beg to be understood. He killed the old Steve Jobs, the idealistic rebel, and built a cold, sharp, relentless force of innovation. When he returned to Apple, he wasn't the same man. He was hated by many, feared by most, but respected because he delivered. He let the old self die so the empire could rise. Or look at Elon Musk. You think the man tweeting memes is the full story? Behind the chaos is someone who has abandoned comfort again and again, betting entire fortunes, destroying personal reputations, working 18-hour days until his body collapses. He doesn't care if he's liked. He doesn't care if he's understood. He's operating on the edge of reinvention. constantly burning versions of himself that no longer serve the mission. Or go back further, to Leonardo da Vinci, an illegitimate child, no formal education, no inheritance, no position in the hierarchy, but he refused to remain what the world expected: painter, sculptor, inventor, engineer, war strategist. He became everything they said he couldn't, because he kept killing the idea of what he was supposed to be. That's the hidden truth about greatness. It's not about discovering who you are, it's about deciding who you will become, and being ruthless enough to murder the rest. Because power doesn't come from identity, it comes from transformation. And transformation is not a glow-up, it's a sacrifice. You will lose people, you will be misunderstood, you will be called fake, arrogant, cold, and you will have to keep going anyway, because the throne is not given to the one who stays loyal to his past. It's given to the one who lets it burn. So, don't ask who you are, ask what you're becoming, because in the end, you will not be remembered for who you were, but for what you became. And that version of you, the one who doesn't hesitate, the one who commands rooms, the one who bends reality. He's waiting on the other side of your old self's funeral. You just have to be willing to bury the body. The greatest trick weakness ever played. I was convincing you it was virtue. You tell yourself you are being loyal. You say you are being honest. You believe you are being moral. But underneath all of it, if you're brutally honest, you're just afraid. Afraid to be misunderstood. Afraid to be judged. Afraid to win. Because winning means changing, and change means losing control. And so, you build a cage around yourself, made of noble ideas. I don't want to hurt anyone. I want to stay grounded. I don't want to become someone I'm not. But those are not principles. They're excuses. Elegant armor for a frightened ego. Because guilt is the leash the world uses to keep powerful people docile. Not because they are wrong, but because they have been taught to feel bad for wanting more. So, you tone yourself down. You speak softly. You ask for less. You seek permission before you act. All in the name of being good. But here's the truth. You think you are being good. You're just being afraid. Afraid of your own sharpness. Afraid of your ambition. Afraid of who you will have to become if you actually take the throne. Because becoming that version of you means giving up the comfort of being liked. It means stepping into rooms where people don't clap, where no one says thank you, where your strength makes others uncomfortable. But that's where power begins. Power is allergic to hesitation. It does not care about your guilt. It does not slow down for your fears. It rewards those who act, not those who overthink. And if you're still hesitating, still waiting for a sign that it's okay to become stronger, colder, more decisive, then you're not becoming powerful. You're becoming predictable. And predictability is vulnerability. You'll be seen, scanned, decoded, and manipulated by people who already learned what you're still afraid to admit. That morality without strategy is weakness, and feelings without force get ignored. So here's your mirror. Every time you hold back, every time you shrink for the comfort of others, every time you hesitate to claim what's yours, that's not kindness. That's fear pretending to be virtue. The most dangerous thing about fear is not how loud it screams, but how quietly it hides behind your values. But if your values are keeping you silent, small, or stuck, then maybe they're not values, maybe they're cages. And maybe it's time to set fire to them, because the path to power doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with a break from the illusions that make you feel safe but keep you weak. There's a reason so few people ever rise. It's not because they're incapable. It's not because they're unlucky. It's because they want the throne, without giving up who they are. But that's not how this game works. Power is not handed to the most deserving. It's taken by the most willing to change, to sacrifice, to kill. Because power is not a reward. It's territory. And territory isn't gifted. It's seized. It's bled for. It's protected by those who already have it. And you don't get in unless you overthrow something, or someone. And often, that someone is you, your current self, the version of you that's still unsure, still hesitant, still loyal to old values. He can't sit on that throne. He wasn't built for it. The throne demands clarity, strategy, and violence. Not the violence of cruelty, but the violence of transformation. The ability to break your own identity in half and rebuild it from the ashes. You cannot keep both. You do not get to be the same person and rule a different life. That's the law of power. You or the throne, not both. And the longer you try to carry the old version of you into the new world you want to create, the more resistance you'll feel, the more the world will remind you you haven't paid the price, because you haven't made the trade. The trade is this: kill the man who wants to be understood. Become the one who wants to be obeyed. Kill the one who wants comfort. Become the one who wants control. Kill the one who plays fair. Become the one who plays to win. You or power. It's not a slogan. It's not a quote. It's a command. It's the moment the universe looks at you and says, make your decision. Stay where it's safe or step into the fire. But don't pretend you can do both. The old you wants to be loved. The new you wants to be undeniable. And those two can't coexist. One must die for the other to rise. So, if you want the crown, don't just reach for it. Become the version of you who takes it. Because the throne is real, but so is the price. And only one of you will make it there. You have heard it already. Betray yourself. But how? Not metaphorically, not in theory. Step by step, with precision, with purpose, with fire. Because this isn't a concept. This is a ritual. And rituals require sacrifice. So here it is. Step 1. Kill the ego that's keeping you soft. The ego isn't your confidence. It's your attachment to being right, to being safe, to being admired. It's the voice that says, this isn't who I am. I shouldn't have to change. What if they don't like the new me? That voice isn't your identity. It's your limitation in disguise. And it must be silenced. Not with kindness, with violence. You kill the ego by acting anyway. By choosing power over pride, by doing what the old you would find unrecognizable, and not flinching. Step 2. Burn the excuses you've been hiding behind. I don't have time. I wasn't raised for this. I just want to stay humble. Those aren't reasons, they're escape routes. Excuses are emotional insurance policies that let you fail with a story attached. If you want to win, you must commit arson, and burn every narrative that explains why you haven't. You are not the story you were handed. You are the story you decide to build. And it starts by setting fire to the ones that kept you small. Step 3, sacrifice comfort. And mourn it. Like a funeral, power is allergic to comfort. And yet, comfort is what you've worshipped your entire life. Comfort in being liked. Comfort in familiar routines. Comfort in waiting for signs before you act. So, here's the truth. You can have comfort. Or you can have transformation. Not both. And yes, it will hurt. You'll grieve the old life, the old habits, the old softness. Let that grief wash through you. But don't mistake it for weakness. It's the sound of your rebirth. The final transformation. You'll know the ritual is complete when you stop needing applause. When you stop asking who you're allowed to be. When you wake up, look in the mirror, and say, I don't recognize who I was. But I respect who I've become. That's not betrayal, that's evolution. And if no one claps when you cross that threshold, good. Because power doesn't come with validation, it comes with clarity. You've done what 99% of people will never do. Bury the person who kept you weak and build the one who can finally win. You don't lose yourself by evolving. You lose the version of you that was never built to win. The quiet one, the people pleaser, the self-doubter, the dreamer who waited for permission, the soft soul who wanted power, but could not pay the price. That version of you was stitched together by fear, by guilt, by stories told by people who were too scared to rise themselves. You called it identity, but it was a defense mechanism, a costume worn so long you thought it was your skin. And now it's time to bury it, because you can't become the person who commands a room, who bends reality, who sits on the throne, until you kill the one who was afraid to try. There's no ceremony for this, no applause, just fire and a decision. And when it's over, when the ashes settle, you won't just be different. You will be dangerous, not cruel, not cold, just clear about who you are, what you want, and what you will never tolerate again. This is the truth Machiavelli knew, and the one the world still tries to silence. To gain power, you must kill who you really are. Not out of malice, but out of clarity, out of necessity, out of truth. The old you was built by fear. The new you is forged in fire. And if that fire burns, good, let it. Because victory always begins with a funeral.